Hey guys, I was just putting together some directions for you so you can have them online for our stock market activity that we're going to be working on. So you need to make sure that you choose two companies that you want to use to follow their stock because we're going to be graphing their closing prices and then we're going to be analyzing their closing prices and making predictions on them. So the first thing you want to do is choose two companies to use. So I'm going to use Target and I'm going to use Kohl's. So that means you can't use Target or Kohl's. You have to pick two others. So the first thing you want to do to search for your company's closing prices is you want to type in the name of the company. So I'll type in Target. And then after it, you're going to type in NYSE for New York Stock Exchange. And then what you're looking for is this right here to come up, this stock ticker. So this is good. So Target comes up when I search for it. And I'm going to try my other company, which is Kohl's. And when I search for Kohl's, Kohl's also comes up. And notice what it says right here. Here's NYSE, which stands for New York Stock Exchange. So this is a company that's traded on the New York Stock Exchange. For those of you that might pick a different company, like for example, let's say we look for, sorry, not Nike, let's look for Yahoo. Let's say you wanted to search for Yahoo. Okay, now notice what comes up here is, it doesn't say New York Stock Exchange, but it says NASDAQ. And that's okay. If yours is traded on NASDAQ, that's not a problem for what we want to do. If you were to search for a company with NYSE and this will not come up, whether it's New York Stock Exchange or NASDAQ, then that is a problem because you're not going to be able to use what we need to do. Okay, so I'm going to go back to Target here. Pull up their ticker. Okay, and then what I need to do is I don't want to follow it for one day. We're actually going to follow it for 1 year. So here's the 1 year tab, and I want to click on that. And now I take a look at Target stock for 1 year. So I'm not going to do every single day of the year. Since we're starting this project on May 16th, what I want to do is, here's my first day that I noticed is May 16th of 2016. So this was 1 year ago. So now that I have my company's ticker pulled up, what I want to go ahead and do is I want to open up a Google Sheet. So I'm going to open up a Google Sheet, and I've already created one here. Actually, I've created one for Kohl's, so I'm going to change this to Kohl's. And pull up Kohl's ticker, pull it up for 1 year, and here's Kohl's closing prices. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up a Google Sheet, and I'm going to create two titles at the top. The first one says months from May 16th, 2016, and that's going to be at the top of column A. And at the top of column B, I'm going to put closing price and then in parentheses in dollars. So I'm going to track how many months it's been from May 16th, 2016, which was 1 year ago. And then I want to track the closing price on that day. Okay, and I'm going to show you how we're going to do that. So what you can also do is down your A column, you can number from 0 to 12 because we're going to track the closing price each month from 1 year ago. And I'm going to show you how we do that. Okay, so I want to make sure I get that listed from 0 to 12. Now I'm going to go back to my closing price graph and I'm going to take a look at that first closing price that's on there, which when you slide your mouse, you'll notice that the dates change and so do the closing prices. So I'm going to find that first closing price, which is May 16th, whoops, let me bring it back, May 16th, 2016, and that closing price was $36.21. So I'm going to go back to my Google Sheet. So on May 16th, 2016, it's 0 months from that date. So the closing price on that date, I'm going to mark down, which was $36.21. Then I'm going to go to 1 month from May 16th, which was June 16th. So I go back to this graph, and notice how I slide, it changes the dates on me. So I'm going to go back and find June 16th. Now notice it was June 14th and June 17th. So obviously June 16th was on a weekend, and that's okay. I'm just going to pick the date closest to June 16th. So that closing price was $36.35. So I go back to my graph. After 1 month from that date, the closing price was $36.35, and I've recorded that. And then I'm doing that for each month afterwards. So this was, as I said, May 16th, this was June 16th, July 16th, August 16th, okay, and I found the closing price on each one of those days. So now I have a closing price and a month associated with my Kohl's stock. So now what I want to do is I want to go ahead and create a graph of this monthly accumulation of closing prices. So I want to make sure that I click in this box that says months from May 16th and highlight all of my data. Once I highlight all my data, I'm going to go up to Insert here on the top on the menu. Click Insert and scroll all the way down to Chart. And then when I click on Chart, it's going to give me some suggestions of the charts that I want. And I don't want any of these charts in the recommendations, so I'm going to go over to Chart Types. Click Chart Types, and now you can see you can choose a line graph, an area graph, a column, a bar graph, a pie chart, and here's the one we want, the scatter plot. I'm going to click on the scatter chart, and it's going to show me the way that it would set up the scatter chart. Okay, and now I want to show you the customizations I want you to make on the scatter chart. So first thing I'm going to do is click on the customization tab up here on the top and change the title of my graph. So on the title of my graph, I'm going to put closing price of Kohl's stock. So now I know I'm closing price of the Kohl's stock. Then I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to change these axes a little. The reason why I put in the first in column A, month from May 16th, 2016, is because that will already go in as the axis title. So I don't have to do that step here, which is great. But what I do want to do is I want to change my minimum and maximum labels down here on the bottom. So I'm going to change the minimum to 0 and the maximum to 14, hit enter, and that's going to change this amount down here. Then I'm going to go to grid lines. The major grid lines, 1, 2, 3, 4, I'm going to change that, okay? I'm going to change the major grid lines to 8. And now notice what happens. When I change that to 8, now everything down here counts by 2s. So I have 8 major grid lines, and then minor grid lines will be grid lines they'll put going vertically that are not numbered. So I want to put 1 there because I want 1 in between each set. So now I can easily see 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, and so on. Then I'm going to do the same thing with this vertical axis. So I'm going to scroll back up to where it says horizontal, click on that, and go to left vertical. And now I can do the same thing with this vertical axis. I already have the title in because I put it in originally when I created the chart. Now with my minimum, my maximum, they go from 35 to 55. I'm going to change mine and go from 0 to 60. You should always change your vertical minimum to 0 and your maximum to a little bit above whatever they choose as their range. So for me it was 35 to 55, so I went a little bit above and made it 60. If, for example, they give you 85, change yours to 90. Now again, I'm going to go down to major grid lines, okay, and I'm going to change my number of major grid lines to something that will work a little better. So I created 6. Now look, everything numbers by 10s when I change it to 6 grid lines. And I'm going to change the number of minor grid lines to 1, meaning it's going to give me 1 grid line in between. So now each one of these are showing me 15, 25, 35. So it's a lot easier to see where these points are at on the graph now. The last thing I'm going to do, and the most important thing that I want to do with this graph, is I want to scroll all the way down to the bottom, and I want to go to this part here where it says trend line. And right now it says none. And I'm going to change that to where it says linear. And I'm going to click on linear. And the next thing I'm going to do then is go to the next set where it says label. Now that I've made a linear equation, it gives me a new set of choices. All I want to do is go to label. Instead of custom, we're going to go to use equation. And notice what it does for me. It gives me an equation of the line. So what this is called is a trend line. And a trend line is basically taking all of this data and creating an average or a mean of the data and turning it into a trend line, meaning what type of trend is this data having? Is it trending up? Is it trending down? What's the average of this data going to be? And then it makes it into an equation. This is something that you'll learn how to do when you get into algebra, but right now I'm just introducing you to what a trend line is and how you can use it. So here's the equation that we've created for our trend line. So if you take a look and you notice on this trend line has a positive slope. Okay, the slope here is 0.099, which is a positive number, which means that the slope is moving up ever so slightly. So that's a good thing when you're owning a company. You want that trend line to go up. So the last thing I'm going to do then is go down here to where it says Insert, click Insert, and I'm going to insert this graph into my chart. So now I've created a graph of the closing price of Kohl's stock. So what I want to make sure I do is I go back, type in my next company that I want to look up. So in this case, as I said, it would be Target. Pull up Target's information, find 1 year, create a new Google Sheet for Target's closing price, and then follow the same procedures that I did for Kohl's stock. And then I want to make sure I save both of those so that I have these graphs and these equations to use for the next part to the activity.